the message that destroyed everything. The champagne glass slipped from Elena's fingers, shattering against the marble floor of the penthouse. But she didn't hear the crash. She couldn't hear anything except the roaring silence in her head as she stared at the phone screen, at the message that had just appeared. Tonight, at the Riverside Hotel. Room 304. Don't be late, my love. It was sent from her fiancé Marcus's phone, but it wasn't meant for her. Her hands trembled as she scrolled up, finding months of messages, intimate, passionate, filled with promises. Messages between Marcus and someone named Sienna, her best friend, her maid of honor, the woman who'd helped her pick out her wedding dress just 3 days ago. Elena's breath came in short, sharp gasps. Tomorrow was supposed to be her wedding day. The flowers were already at the venue. The guests had flown in from 3 continents. Her dress hung in the closet behind her, a princess gown that cost more than most people's cars. And the man she'd loved for 5 years, the man she'd built her entire future around, was texting another woman. Not just any woman. Sienna. When trust becomes poison. Elena had met Marcus at a charity gala 4 years ago. He was everything she'd ever wanted. Successful, charming, attentive. He owned a chain of luxury hotels across the East Coast, and he'd swept her off her feet with private jets and rooftop dinners. But more than the money, it was the way he looked at her, like she was the only woman in the world, that had made her fall so completely. She'd introduced him to Sienna 6 months into their relationship. Sienna was the wild one, the friend who'd been with her since college, the woman who knew all her secrets. They'd been inseparable, sharing everything from clothes to late-night confessions. When Marcus and Sienna met, Elena had been thrilled that her 2 favorite people got along so well. Too well. Elena's stomach twisted as she read another message. I can't wait to be with you without hiding anymore. After the wedding, we'll figure it out. She'll never have to know. After the wedding. They were planning to continue this, whatever this was, even after Elena became Marcus's wife. The betrayal cut deeper than any knife could. This wasn't a moment of weakness or a drunken mistake. This was calculated, planned, sustained. The decision that changed everything. Elena stood frozen in the middle of the penthouse, her reflection staring back at her from the floor-to-ceiling windows. The city sparkled below her, oblivious to the destruction happening 40 stories up. She should call Marcus, confront him, scream, cry, throw things. That's what any normal person would do. But Elena wasn't normal. Not anymore. She'd spent her entire life being the good girl. The daughter who never caused trouble, the student who always followed the rules, the girlfriend who trusted completely. And where had that gotten her? Standing in a penthouse she'd helped decorate, wearing an engagement ring she'd cherished, planning a wedding that was built on lies. A cold clarity settled over her like frost. She wasn't going to cry. She wasn't going to beg. She was going to do something neither Marcus nor Sienna would ever see coming. Setting the trap. Elena picked up the pieces of shattered glass with steady hands, her mind working through the possibilities. She had money. Her late father had left her a substantial inheritance that she'd never touched, preferring to live modestly despite Marcus's wealth. She had connections. Years of charity work had introduced her to lawyers, private investigators, and people who owed her favors. And she had something more powerful than either of those things. She had 24 hours until the wedding. 24 hours to destroy them both. She opened her laptop and started making calls. The first was to James Chen, a private investigator she'd met through her foundation work. James, I need everything you can find on Marcus Thornton and Sienna Blake. Financial records, communications, property holdings, everything. And I need it by tomorrow morning. James's voice was cautious. Elena, that's your fiancé and... I know who they are. She interrupted, her voice ice. Can you do it or not? I'll have it by dawn. The second call was harder. She dialed her mother, knowing this conversation would hurt. Her mother had been so excited about the wedding, so proud that Elena had found a successful man who treated her well. "Mom," Elena said when the phone picked up, "I need you to trust me. Tomorrow, things are going to happen that you won't understand. But I need you to know that I'm doing what's right, even if it doesn't look that way." Her mother's voice was immediately concerned. "Elena, sweetheart, what's wrong? Are you having cold feet? That's completely normal. It's not cold feet. Just trust me. Please, and whatever happens tomorrow, don't try to stop it." She hung up before her mother could press further. The night before, Elena spent the night transforming. She didn't sleep. Instead, she sat at her computer, reading through the preliminary findings James had sent over. Bank transfers from Marcus's account to Sienna's, hotel reservations under fake names, credit card statements showing jewelry purchases that Elena had never received. But there was something else. Something that made Elena's blood run cold, and her revenge crystallize into something sharp and perfect. Marcus's hotel chain was struggling financially, something he'd never mentioned. He'd been taking loans, leveraging properties, making desperate moves to keep the business afloat. And in 3 months, Elena's trust fund was set to fully mature, giving her access to $15 million. The wedding wasn't about love, it was about money. And Sienna? The messages revealed that Marcus had promised her a partnership in the hotel business once he secured Elena's inheritance. They were partners in every sense of the word. Elena leaned back in her chair as the sun began to rise over the city. Her wedding was in 12 hours. Guests would arrive in 10. Marcus and Sienna thought they were so clever, planning their future on the foundation of her broken heart. They had no idea what was coming. The final preparation. At 7 a.m., Elena did something unexpected. She went to the hotel where her wedding was being held, the flagship property of Marcus's chain, the Riverside Grand. She walked through the lobby in yesterday's clothes, her hair unbrushed, her eyes red but dry. The wedding planner, Christine, rushed over with concern painted across her face. "Elena, what are you doing here? You should be getting ready. The hair and makeup team is waiting at the penthouse." "Change of plans," Elena said calmly. "I need you to add someone to the guest list. James Chen. He'll be arriving around noon, but the seating chart is all ready." "Make room," Elena said, her voice quiet but final. "It's important." She turned to leave, then paused. "Christine, do you have access to the hotel's AV system? The screens in the ballroom?" Christine nodded slowly, confusion evident. "Yes, but the slideshow is already programmed. I'm going to send you a new video file. I need you to play it during the reception, right after the first dance." "Elena, I don't understand." "You will," Elena said. "Just trust me." "And Christine?" She turned back, her eyes harder than diamonds. "Don't tell Marcus about any of this. What video had Elena created? What evidence had she uncovered that would destroy them both? And most importantly, would she still walk down that aisle, or was revenge about to take a form no one expected? Heartbreak and revenge. The bride who knew too much. The suite at the Riverside Grand was filled with the sound of laughter and champagne bubbles. Sienna stood beside Elena, adjusting her maid of honor dress, a deep burgundy that complemented her dark skin beautifully. She smiled at Elena through the mirror, her expression the perfect picture of friendship and support. "You look absolutely stunning," Sienna said, her voice warm and convincing. "Marcus is going to lose his mind when he sees you." Elena met Sienna's eyes in the reflection, her own face a mask of bridal joy. "Do you think so? I want everything to be perfect." "It will be," Sienna assured her, squeezing her shoulder. "This is your fairy tale, Ellie. You deserve all of it." The lie was so smooth, so practiced, that Elena almost admired it. Sienna had always been talented at making people trust her, at playing roles, at hiding the knife behind her back while she embraced you. Elena's mother fussed with her veil, while bridesmaids fluttered around like nervous butterflies. No one knew what was coming. No one suspected that the calm bride sitting before them was a woman who'd spent the night orchestrating the destruction of everything this day represented. The ceremony begins. The music swelled. Elena stood at the entrance to the ballroom, her arm linked with her uncle's. Her father had died 3 years ago. Another pain Marcus had helped her through, or pretended to. 300 guests turned to watch her enter, their faces glowing with happiness and anticipation. At the end of the aisle, Marcus stood in a custom tuxedo, his dark hair perfectly styled, his smile bright and confident. He was handsome, devastatingly so, and for a moment Elena felt her resolve waver. This man had been her world. She'd imagined growing old with him, having children, building a life, but then she saw Sienna standing at the altar, holding her bouquet, and the steel returned to Elena's spine. She walked down the aisle slowly, maintaining perfect composure. Each step was measured, deliberate. She smiled at guests, nodded at her mother who was crying happy tears, and kept her eyes locked on Marcus. His expression was everything a groom's should be, emotional, loving, grateful. He was good. She'd give him that. He was very, very good. Vows built on lies. The officiant began the ceremony with traditional words about love and commitment. Marcus said his vows first, his voice thick with emotion that might have even been genuine, or at least genuine enough that he believed it himself. Elena, he said, taking her hands. You walked into my life when I'd given up on finding real love. You showed me what it means to be truly seen, truly accepted. I promise to honor you, to cherish you, to build a life with you that's worthy of the incredible woman you are. The guests sighed collectively. Sienna dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Elena maintained her serene smile. Then it was her turn. She'd written her vows weeks ago, but she'd rewritten them last night. The new version sat in her mind like bullets in a chamber. Marcus, she began, her voice steady and clear. When I met you, I thought I'd found my person. I trusted you with everything, my heart, my dreams, my future. I believed in us so completely that I never questioned, never doubted, never looked beneath the surface. She paused, and something in her tone made Marcus's smile flicker slightly. You taught me something valuable, Elena continued. You taught me that some people are very good at wearing masks, that some people will smile while they plan your destruction. That love isn't always what it seems. The room's atmosphere shifted. Guests glanced at each other, uncertain. The officiant looked confused. Marcus's hand tightened on hers. Elena, I'm not finished, she said quietly. These vows are about truth, so here's my truth I know about Sienna. The room explodes. Gasps rippled through the ballroom. Sienna's face went chalk white. Marcus's expression transformed from confusion to panic in a heartbeat. Elena, what are you? Marcus started, but she pulled her hands away. I know about the messages, Elena said, her voice carrying to every corner of the silent room. I know about the hotel rooms, the promises, the plans you made together. I know that this wedding, she gestured at the elaborate decorations, the flowers that cost thousands, the cake that stood 6 tiers tall, was never about love. It was about my trust fund. Her mother stood up, hand over her mouth. Sienna had started crying, but Elena couldn't tell if the tears were real or another performance. I spent last night, Elena continued, turning to address the assembled guests, uncovering the truth about the man I almost married. And I want to share that truth with all of you, since you traveled so far to be here. She nodded to Christine, who stood frozen by the AV controls. Play the video. The evidence revealed. The screens around the ballroom flickered to life. What played next was a masterpiece of investigative work and editing. Text messages between Marcus and Sienna appeared, enlarged for all to see. Their words, intimate, scheming, cruel, filled the screens. Voice recordings played of Sienna laughing about Elena's naivety, about how easy it was to play the best friend role. Then came the financial documents, charts showing Marcus's failing business, the mountain of debt he'd hidden, the timeline of Elena's trust fund maturation that coincided perfectly with his sudden proposal. But the worst, the absolute worst, was the video someone had captured just 2 nights ago at the Riverside Hotel. Marcus and Sienna in an embrace that left nothing to the imagination, their faces clearly visible, their passion undeniable. Sienna had bolted from the altar, running from the ballroom as guests shouted after her. Marcus stood frozen, his face the color of spoiled milk. "You planned this entire day," Elena said, her voice finally cracking with emotion. "You made me believe in something that never existed. So I want you to feel exactly what I felt when I discovered the truth. Betrayed, humiliated, destroyed." She stepped back from the altar, pulling off her engagement ring. But instead of throwing it at Marcus, the dramatic gesture everyone expected, she did something else. "James," she called out. A man in a suit stood from the audience. "He's all yours. The legal trap closes." James Chen walked to the altar carrying a folder. "Marcus Thornton," he said formally, "you're being served with papers for fraud and embezzlement. We have evidence that you've been using investors' money to fund personal expenses, including payments to Sienna Blake. The FBI will be arriving shortly to discuss additional charges." Marcus's face went from white to grey. "You can't. This isn't. I can," Elena said. "And I did. You see, while you were busy planning how to steal my inheritance, I was busy talking to your investors, your business partners, your employees. Turns out, a lot of people had suspicions about you. They just needed someone to start pulling the thread." She turned to face the assembled guests, her family and friends who looked shell-shocked. "I'm sorry you all traveled here for nothing, but I couldn't let this wedding happen. I couldn't let him win." Her voice broke on the last word, and finally, the tears came. Her mother rushed forward, wrapping Elena in her arms as she collapsed. The ballroom erupted into chaos, guests arguing, people shouting questions, hotel security trying to restore order. But through it all, Elena heard Marcus's voice, desperate and angry. "You'll regret this, Elena. You have no idea what you've just done." The aftermath begins. An hour later, Elena sat alone in the bridal suite, still in her wedding dress, makeup streaked down her face. The police had taken Marcus away in handcuffs. Sienna had disappeared entirely. The guests had dispersed, some sympathetic, some scandalized, all of them eager to spread the story. There was a knock at the door. Elena's mother entered, her own face swollen from crying. "I should have known," her mother said quietly. "There were signs, little things. I just wanted you to be happy so badly that I ignored them." "We both did," Elena said. She felt hollowed out, like someone had scooped out her insides and left only the shell. Her mother sat beside her. "What will you do now?" Elena looked at her reflection in the mirror, the expensive dress, the elaborate hair, the makeup that was supposed to make her look like a princess. She looked like a ghost. "I don't know," she admitted. "I destroyed him. I got my revenge. But I don't feel victorious. I just feel empty." "Revenge often is," her mother said gently. "The wound might close, but the scar remains." A text message buzzed on Elena's phone. Unknown number. She opened it with shaking hands. "You think this is over? You think you've won? You took everything from me, Elena. Now I'm going to take everything from you. And unlike your little public humiliation, you'll never see it coming." Elena's blood ran cold. She showed the message to her mother. "It's from Marcus," Elena whispered. "He's threatening me." Her mother's face hardened. "Call the police. This is harassment. He's already facing charges." "No," Elena said slowly. A new determination was building in her chest, replacing the emptiness. If he wants to play, we'll play. But this time, I'm not the naive girl who trusted blindly. She stood, beginning to unzip the wedding dress. This time, I'm the woman who destroys kingdoms. But Elena didn't know that Marcus had secrets of his own, darker, more dangerous secrets. And somewhere in the city, Sienna was making plans too. The revenge wasn't over, it was just beginning, and the cost would be higher than anyone imagined. The ultimate payback. The hunter becomes the hunted. 3 weeks after the wedding that never happened, Elena sat in a sleek downtown office across from a woman whose reputation preceded her. Lydia Reeves was known as the divorce destroyer, a lawyer who specialized in high-stakes cases involving wealthy, powerful men who underestimated their opponents. "I don't typically take cases like yours," Lydia said, her silver hair pulled back in a severe bun, her eyes sharp as broken glass. "You weren't actually married, so there's no divorce to handle. But your situation..." She tapped the folder in front of her, thick with the evidence Elena had compiled. "This is something special." Elena had spent the past 3 weeks in hiding at her mother's house, but she hadn't been idle. Every threatening text from Marcus there had been 17. Every attempt he'd made to contact her to call, every move he'd made since his arrest, she'd documented everything. And she'd discovered something interesting. Marcus wasn't acting alone. "He has backing," Elena said quietly. "Someone with money and connections helped him make bail. Someone is funding his legal defense. I need to know who." Lydia smiled, and it wasn't a warm expression. "Already ahead of you. Marcus's mysterious benefactor is a man named Victor Castellano. Real estate mogul, owns half the property development in the city. He and Marcus have been partners for years, silent partners. The hotel chain was just the legitimate face of their operation." "What operation?" "Money laundering," Lydia said bluntly. "Real estate fraud. They'd buy properties cheap, inflate their value through Marcus's hotel developments, then sell them at massive profits. Your trust fund wasn't just going to save Marcus's business, it was going to be their next big investment opportunity." Elena felt sick. She'd thought Marcus was just a cheating fraud. The reality was so much worse. "And Sienna? Where does she fit in?" "Sienna Blake is Victor's goddaughter," Lydia revealed, sliding another document across the desk. "She was planted in your life deliberately. They needed someone close to you, someone who could confirm your financial status, keep you distracted, make sure you didn't look too closely at Marcus's business dealings." The betrayal cut deeper with each revelation. So none of it was real. Not the friendship, not the romance. I was just a mark. "You were a target," Lydia corrected. "But you fought back, and that's what terrifies them. You exposed Marcus, which means their entire operation is at risk. That's why he's threatening you, and why he'll do more than threaten if we don't act first. The plan for total destruction." Elena learned quickly that revenge wasn't a single dramatic gesture. It was a chess game played across weeks and months, each move calculated to corner your opponent until they had nowhere left to run. Lydia introduced her to a team, forensic accountants who could trace money through a dozen shell corporations, hackers who could recover deleted files newly, they insisted, and private security professionals who made sure Elena wasn't in physical danger. "We're going to take down Marcus, Victor, and Sienna," Lydia explained at their strategy meeting. "But we're going to do it methodically. First, we destroy their finances. Then their reputations. Finally, we put them in prison where they belong." Elena felt a surge of something she hadn't felt since that awful night. Power. "How long will it take? If we do it right?" 3 months. "But you need to be prepared, Elena. They're going to fight back. This won't be clean." It wasn't. The counterattack. 2 days later, Elena's name appeared in the tabloids. Someone had leaked a fabricated story claiming she'd faked the affair evidence to get out of the wedding because she'd been having an affair herself. Photos appeared, doctored images of Elena with various men, all carefully created to look authentic. Her foundation's donors started calling with concerns. Her social media filled with hateful messages. People she'd considered friends stopped returning her calls. "This is Victor's work," Lydia said, reviewing the smear campaign. "He owns several media outlets. He's trying to destroy your credibility before the real evidence comes out." Elena sat in her mother's living room, watching her reputation dissolve on national television. A news anchor was speculating about her mental stability and attention-seeking behavior. She wanted to scream, to break something, to give up. Instead, she made a decision that changed everything. Going public. Elena scheduled a press conference at her foundation's office. Her mother begged her not to. "They'll tear you apart," she'd said. But Elena was done hiding. When she walked into the room filled with cameras and reporters, she wore a simple black suit and no jewelry except her father's watch. She looked directly into the cameras and told her story. All of it. She showed the real messages between Marcus and Sienna. She explained the financial fraud, the manipulation, the threats she'd received. She didn't cry. She didn't apologize. She simply presented the truth with the calm authority of someone who had nothing left to lose. "I'm not here because I want sympathy," she said in closing. "I'm here because powerful men use money and influence to silence their victims. They rely on shame keeping us quiet. But I refuse to be quiet. Marcus Thornton and Victor Castellano thought I'd be easy to destroy. They were wrong." The video went viral within hours. #IStandWithElena trended nationwide. Other women came forward with their own stories about Victor and Marcus, harassment, coercion, fraud. The tide turned so fast it left Elena dizzy. But the real victory came from an unexpected source. The betrayer betrayed. Sienna appeared at Elena's mother's house one evening, her face bruised, her expensive clothes rumpled. When Elena's security detail tried to turn her away, Sienna did something surprising. She got on her knees on the front porch. "Please," Sienna begged, her voice hoarse. "Please just listen to me. I have information. I have everything you need to destroy Victor." Elena stood at the window watching this woman who'd been her best friend, who'd betrayed her so completely. Every instinct screamed not to trust her, but Lydia appeared at her elbow, tablet in hand. "Her godfather beat her," Lydia said quietly. "Hospital records from 2 days ago. Broken ribs, concussion. Victor found out she was having second thoughts about the plan. He didn't take it well." Elena's anger warred with an unwelcome sympathy. She went to the door and opened it. Sienna looked up, tears streaming down her face. "I know you have no reason to believe me. I know I don't deserve your help. But Victor killed someone, Elena. Marcus's former business partner who tried to expose them 5 years ago. They made it look like an accident, but I have proof. I've been wearing a wire for the past month. Victor doesn't know. I have recordings of him admitting everything." The final trap. The setup took 2 weeks. The FBI became involved once they heard Sienna's recordings. It turned out the agent handling Marcus's fraud case had been investigating Victor for years, waiting for enough evidence to take him down. They organized a meeting at Victor's private estate, a mansion overlooking the bay. Victor thought he was meeting with international investors interested in his properties. Instead, he walked into a room full of federal agents and prosecutors. Elena was there, standing behind the two-way glass, watching as they arrested Victor Castellano. She watched his face transform from arrogant confidence to shocked disbelief as they read him his charges: fraud, conspiracy, racketeering, and murder. Marcus was arrested simultaneously at his lawyer's office. Without Victor's money and influence protecting him, his own legal troubles multiplied exponentially. When it was over, Lydia stood beside Elena in the observation room. "How does it feel?" Elena considered the question. "Empty," she admitted. "I thought revenge would feel satisfying. Instead, I just feel tired." "That's because you're not like them," Lydia said. "You didn't enjoy destroying people. You just refused to let them destroy you. There's a difference." Rebuilding from ashes. 6 months later, Elena stood in the new office of her foundation, which had expanded significantly. The donations that had dried up during the scandal had returned tenfold, along with new supporters who'd been inspired by her courage. Sienna was serving 2 years in a minimum security facility in exchange for her testimony against Victor. Elena had visited her once. They didn't talk about the past, they talked about what came next. "I don't forgive you," Elena had said clearly. "What you did was unforgivable. But I understand that you were trapped too. And I hope you use this time to become someone better." Sienna had nodded, tears in her eyes. "I don't deserve your understanding, but thank you." Elena had walked away from that conversation feeling lighter somehow. Not because she'd forgiven, forgiveness wasn't required, but because she'd released the poison of her anger. Holding on to it was like drinking venom and expecting her enemies to die. Marcus and Victor would be in prison for 20 years minimum. The evidence had been overwhelming, the case airtight. Sometimes Elena still had nightmares about that night she discovered the texts, about the wedding that became a battleground. But increasingly, she dreamed about other things, her foundation, her work, the life she was building that had nothing to do with revenge. The unexpected message. 1 year after the wedding that never happened, Elena received a letter. It was from Marcus, written from his prison cell. Her first instinct was to burn it without reading. But curiosity won. "Elena, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know that you did something no one else could. You made me see myself clearly. I was so focused on money, status, and power that I forgot how to be human. I forgot that real people get hurt by schemes and lies. Victor used me as much as I used you. He promised me wealth and respect, and I sold my soul for it. I sold your trust, your love, everything decent I might have been. You probably don't care. Why should you? But I need to say it anyway, I'm sorry. Not because sorry fixes anything. It doesn't. But because it's true. You deserved better than me. You deserved honesty, loyalty, real love. I hope you find it. Marcus." Elena read the letter 3 times, then filed it away in a drawer. She didn't respond. Some wounds deserved acknowledgement, but not reconciliation. The new beginning. 2 years after the scandal, Elena met someone at a book launch for her memoir, The Wedding That Destroyed a Kingdom. His name was David, and he was a professor of ethics at the local university. He had kind eyes and a gentle laugh, and when he asked her to dinner, she said yes with only a small flutter of anxiety. On their 3rd date, he asked her directly, "Are you okay with all of this? The exposure, the attention, the past?" Elena considered lying, giving him the easy answer. Instead, she told the truth. "Some days I'm okay. Some days I wake up angry all over again. But I'm healing, slowly, and I'm learning to trust again." "I can wait," David said simply. Healing doesn't have a deadline. It was the kindest thing anyone had said to her in years. The final truth. 5 years after the wedding, Elena stood in the ballroom of the Riverside Grand, the hotel that had been sold to new owners and renovated completely. She was there for a charity gala, her foundation's annual fundraiser. As she looked around the room where her life had once exploded into chaos, she felt an unexpected peace. This place had tried to be her ending. Instead, it had been her beginning. She'd learned that revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about refusing to let them destroy you. It's about standing up when they expect you to crumble, speaking truth when they profit from silence, and building something better from the ashes of betrayal. Marcus was still in prison. Victor had died there 2 years ago, a heart attack, the report said. Sienna had been released and moved across the country, building a quiet life away from her past. And Elena? She'd done more than survive. She'd thrived. As the evening's program began, Elena stepped to the microphone to address the gathered donors and supporters. She looked out at hundreds of faces, some she knew, some strangers, all of them here because they believed in second chances and the power of truth. 5 years ago, Elena began, her voice steady and strong. I stood in a room like this preparing to make the biggest mistake of my life. I thought I knew what love looked like. I thought I knew what trust meant. I was wrong about almost everything. She paused, letting the words settle, but I learned something valuable from that experience. I learned that the only person who can truly destroy you is yourself, by staying silent, by accepting lies, by believing you deserve less than the truth. Her eyes swept the room. We all face betrayal at some point. We all get knocked down. The question isn't whether it happens. The question is what we do next. Do we let it define us? Or do we let it refine us? The applause started slowly, then built into a thunderous ovation. Elena smiled, not with satisfaction at revenge completed, but with genuine joy at a life reclaimed. Because in the end, the ultimate payback wasn't destroying Marcus and Victor. It was refusing to let their betrayal destroy her. It was building a life so full of purpose and meaning that they became footnotes in her story rather than its defining chapters. The wedding that never happened became the day Elena's real life began. And that was the greatest revenge of all.